we're going to jump right into this. This is the panel before lunch. I am J.R. DeShazo, and I'm director of the UCLA Luskin Center for Innovation. And it's my great pleasure to moderate our second panel, which will focus on workforce development benefits from the county sustainability plan. And let me just tell you a little bit about the Luskin Center for Innovation. We really try and take the aspirational goals that our policymakers set and help our public agencies craft effective, efficient, equitable policies that achieve those goals. That's our mission. And I want to, as we shift and we focus on the county sustainability plan and the workforce impacts of that, I want to recognize from UCLA also the UCLA Grand Challenge, which helped develop the plan, and they contributed a lot of data and resources to the plan's development. I also want to thank Fran and the broader UCLA faculty, Antonio, for your support. The challenges that we face as a Los Angeles community are so large that we need to marshal our forces in order to effectively tackle and help move our communities forward. Now, the next panel is about workforce development and what the economic and job creation benefits are of this plan. And I want to start by just making sure that we understand why we're even interested in the workforce development implications of the county plan. First, I want to point out that we always have to, I think, counter the narrative that sustainability means job loss. That narrative is so strong, especially at the national level. I think we have to demonstrate that there are economic development benefits to transitioning to these cleaner technologies, and we have to do that relentlessly. Second, the question is always going to be, well, are the jobs benefiting those who need them the most, and are they high-quality jobs? So we need to have visibility. We need to do these analyses. We need to have this conversation so that we have visibility on the kinds of jobs that we're going to both lose as we transition out of dirtier industries and technologies and gain as we transition into cleaner technologies. And the third reason, which is the sort of the intellectually the most interesting, is, as you just heard at the end of the last panel, we have to match the supply of trained workers with the demand for those trained workers. And that doesn't happen on its own. We as economists, I'm an economist, we like to think these markets sort of adjust perfectly, but in fact, government programs and policies help stimulate demand for new workers, and they also make decisions about how many workers to train and how much money to put into workforce training. And so that matching supply with demand there requires that we look program by program at the situation and see the extent to which there's a mismatch. And so, we're going to talk today as we go through our panel conversation about the extent to which that mismatch is happening and in what direction. And I just want to mention that the Luskin Center for Innovation has been tackling these workforce and job creation questions for some time. We started off working on the feed-in tariff, supporting the LABC's campaign around distributed renewable energy in the city of Los Angeles. And that was an interesting and very instructive case because the FIT was not only the most cost-effective local solar proposal, but when we looked at the workforce training efforts that were going in, what we noticed at the time, and this was, I think, 2014, 2015, was there was an oversupply of trained workers in the solar industry relative to the demand being created by public programs. And so that was one of the other arguments for expanding and extending the feed-in tariff and other distributed solar programs was we actually were not matching the demand with the existing supply. We were oversupplying workers who were having to leave the county to find work. We've also been supporting the Department of the Department of DWP on their energy and water efficiency programs. And I think it's really important to recognize that they spend a lot of ratepayer funds on water efficiency, energy efficiency program, as do the other utilities. And elected officials and union officials need to be assured that there's a return on those investments. Again, it's a political conversation, but it's one that I think we can't ignore. And as a public research university, I feel like UCLA wants to be of service across its many different departments, and this is one of the things we try and do. Two more studies very quickly that I'll mention. When we were going to extend the cap and trade program and extend AB and SB 32 out to 2030, one of the requests that Mary Nichols made was, would we estimate the job creation impacts of the cap and trade scoping plan, the climate scoping plan? And so we did that, and all 38 programs that are funded by the California Climate Investment Programs, so that we could have some visibility on these questions of what are the impacts, what kinds of jobs are being created, where are they, and are we going to match supply of workforce training with the demand for those trained workers. And then that brings us to today, where the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power is trying to take that next step and become even cleaner. It has its Clean Grid initiative, and one of the things that we're exploring right now is assessing the workforce implications of depowering a couple of natural gas-fired plants and replacing those with various forms of storage and out-of-basin and local renewable resources. And that's going to include the employment losses that come with closing those plants, and then the employment gains of investing greater in grid upgrades, modernizing the grid, the transmission distribution system, as well as the generation resources. So as we think about ourselves as a community, these studies become important. LA County has set forth this ambitious plan before us, and we have the opportunity in this panel to, I think, begin to ask the questions about are we synchronized in terms of our workforce commitments? How is state legislation going to be impacting our local training programs and our sustainability impacts? And so I think in this, for the sake of time, what I'd like to do is maybe if you don't mind, cut down on the introductions. And just give each of you a chance to make some opening remarks, and then we'll move to the Q&A afterwards. So let me start by introducing, I'm going to do this one at a time, Wendy Butts, who's the CEO of the Los Angeles Conservation Corps. Would you make a few remarks, please?
Hi, everybody. I'm Wendy Butts. I'm the CEO of the LA Conservation Corps. And the people who tell the best story about the Corps are our Corps members. So this is just a quick video that a documentarian who came and visited us spent some time on. I hope the photos aren't too small, but it'll give you an idea of what we do at the Corps. So we work with 18 to 24-year-olds. We give them an opportunity to earn their high school diploma if they don't have it. And then we give them work experiences on, the way I describe the work is anything outside. So it's conservation-related, environmentally focused work projects through the support of our amazing partners like the city and the county. We are giving them an eye into industries and jobs that they never imagined they could be a part of. And that's not because they don't... I think the biggest piece is they never saw themselves in those jobs. They didn't know those jobs existed. So we're teaching them how to be good stewards, but more than anything else, we're teaching them how to have a job and keep a job. So I'll let this kind of cycle through and we'll move to the next one. These are some photos from our C Lab, which unfortunately we had to close on June 30th, but it was our most successful job training program for the Corps members who worked there in terms of getting straight into marine science careers. You'll see these photos here. We do a lot with construction, parks, a lot of city services. But we're not new. This workforce development program is a proven model. We are based on the Depression-era Civilian Conservation Corps, which I love talking about, so I'll try to keep it short. But so over the 9 years that the Civilian Conservation Corps was working, the 3 million young men I can't remember what the statistic I sent to you, Jake, was, but there were a whole bunch. I mean, it was like 1 in 8 or something, right? That men participated in this program over the 9-year period. They planted 3 billion trees, which is like half of the reforestation that's happened across the country since and in our history. And the model was very much the same. It was about putting young men who needed a job to work doing things that needed to be done in the environment. So our national park system would not be what it is today without the CCC Corps members. In California, there is a lot of what the CCC left behind in our state parks as well. At the LA Conservation Corps, we're 33 years old. What we do is not new, but we always try to look at it in a new light. So a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, we refocused our efforts and our framework, kind of refreshed our framework around a green career pathways model, with the understanding that unlike our parents, my parents, these young people won't just have one job. They will need to skill up a number of times over their careers. And so we try to do that. We teach them what that's like by taking them through phases when they're with us at the Corps. So they go through an orientation, they get time to figure out if this is really what they want to do. They get basic work experience, and we start to build their work ethic. And for us, it's as simple as coming to work or school every day. Working with one another, wearing a uniform, getting up early, working with their peers, taking direction from their supervisors. And for those who don't have a high school diploma, we provide them with one through our charter school partner, and we introduce them to pretty exciting and increasingly technical projects during their stay with us. We ask those who are really into this type of work to stay with us during phase 2, and we ask them to choose a green career pathway. And here are just a few of the photos that depict the work that we're doing. Those first 3 green career pathways, land management, zero waste construction, they're all built on the projects that we are bringing in from our public and private partners, mostly public. And then we are constantly looking at the emerging industries in the area. So transportation is a direct result of all of the work with Metro. Energy, we had a big, like we just heard, a big solar push for a little while. We haven't had as many work projects in the energy field, but we are partnering with Grid Alternatives to give our Corps members opportunities, earning the hours they need to be certified. I guess the message I want to make here is that we're flexible, we are adaptable, but our primary focus is getting these young people ready for jobs. So my purpose in life right now is pipelines into the Corps and pipelines out of the Corps. So where should we be getting these youth from? Places like probation camps, obviously other local CBOs. Where we get them from now is mostly word of mouth. Friends, family, people who have gone through the program. And then pipelines out. So we do a lot of work with the city and the county, but it's hard to get them into these jobs. So how do we create almost like credit for the work they've done at the Corps so they don't have to compete quite as highly or as difficultly with the general population who are coming into these jobs. And we're working hopefully stronger with the unions these days. We are ultimately a pre-apprenticeship program teaching young people how to work hard. So I think that's it.
Thank you, Wendy. To make that transition as smooth as possible, I'd like to ask Ron Miller, the Executive Secretary for Los Angeles and Orange County's Building and Construction Trades Council, to share some remarks with us next.
Thank you, and thanks for having us here today. So I've been lucky enough to go to both schools. I spent a couple years working at UCLA, a couple years working here. The late 70s, I worked on the science building. I'm a plumber by trade. I have 41 years in the plumbing trade. I've been running the building trade since about 2012. Me and I are very good friends. She puts her hopes and dreams down on paper, and the men and women of the building trades make it happen. I represent about 140,000 skilled and trained men and women in LA and Orange County. All in good careers. We have about 15,000 apprentices in our program right now. In the last couple of years, we had to start an apprenticeship readiness program, and it's based on a curriculum that was put together in Washington, D.C. by all the trades. And so we have many community partners in LA and Orange County. We partner with a lot of the community colleges, Trade Tech, Long Beach City College, a good list of community college and community partners to put that curriculum together to ensure that we have good candidates for our apprenticeship programs. See, in our program for apprenticeship, across all the over 50 unions, we don't rely on outside money. We pay for it ourselves. We spend $200 million a year in California training apprentices. That number goes up to $1.5 billion across the United States when you count the United States for training. It's paid for by the men and women of the building trades and the contractors we partner with. We have to have that viable funding in place to be sustainable. We've been around for over 100 years, and we're not about the jobs, we're about careers. So when I started back in the late 70s, I didn't know anything about trades. My dad worked for General Motors, but that's one of the occupations that's not available here anymore. It's gone. They didn't go out of business, they just moved. So we're doing a good job of building the workforce of tomorrow. I'd like to say there's no shortage of workers. There's a shortage of workers that want to work for the amount of money that some of the companies want to spend on the workers. We have a good relationship with BYD. That smart union he's talking about is under my umbrella, and we're working on putting agreements together to expand BYD. And we've been in the green energy field for 30 or 40 years now. All those windmills down in Palm Springs that everybody drives by, them were installed by the men and women of the building trades. The solar plant out at Kramer Junction at Highway 395, that was put in over 30 years ago by the men and women of the building trades. So these sustainable jobs we've been doing all along. The windmills on Tehachapi, the Ridge, that's our work. So these are not new jobs, and we're already doing the training for them. The electricians do part of that job, but that's part of their training, that technology. They do a lot more, so they're well-rounded, and that's what makes it a career. And the refineries, we have a big presence in the refineries, and we know that they're going to change the way they do business in the coming years, but it's not going to happen overnight. As soon as BYD figures out how to put wings on those electric buses to make them fly, we'll be able to get rid of the jet fuel. And the ships coming into the harbor bringing 45% of the goods for the United States, they need bunker fuel to get back to China. It's just a hard, cold fact. So when that happens, then we can transition. But the county has come up with a good plan, I think. It's a sustainable plan, like it says. And I think it'll work. It's got good time frames. We worked with the legislature in Sacramento to put those time frames in effect, and we wouldn't have worked with them if we didn't believe in them. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ron. So I'd like to transition now to Caroline Torosis, Director of Economic and Business Development for the Los Angeles County.
Thank you. And I would just like to say, Ron, thank you for providing the Apprenticeship Readiness Fund, and Ann and Chris. I think that the building trades have really done kind of transformative work in this space, so we really appreciate partnering with you all. So anyways, my name is Carolyn Torosis, and I oversee economic and business development for our county's Workforce Development Department. That's Workforce Development, Aging, and Community Services. And we are, for all intents and purposes, the public workforce arm for the county. We oversee all of the money coming from the federal government through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, but we are really much broader than that. I think that we know we have a very progressive board of supervisors, and for all of you here from the board, we very much appreciate you in ensuring that there are community benefits and equity in kind of everything that we're doing. The county purchases at least $5 billion of goods and services every year. We want to ensure that we are promoting climate resilient, GHG reducing social enterprises and that we are promoting small business development, and that they have a leg to stand on to compete for these contracts. So I think that putting our money where our mouth is with our purchasing power is really important. From a workforce development arm, the county's also developed a local and targeted worker hire policy very similar to what Metro has, to ensure that we are bringing benefits to the local community where these projects are. And I think in order to be successful with our local and targeted worker hire policy, we really need to be strong partners with the building trades to ensure that there is a pipeline of skilled and work-ready individuals. And when we say skilled and work-ready individuals, we know that we're quote-unquote at full employment. What does that mean? We still have tens of thousands of people coming through our workforce system without a job. So who are those people? Those are the people with the highest barriers to employment. We're talking about formerly incarcerated, formerly homeless, foster youth, victims of domestic violence, non-English language learners. And these individuals are part of our economy, and they also need career pathway opportunities. So really, we as a workforce development department have felt it's incumbent upon us to ensure that we're bringing people with an equity lens from the local community through our training programs and into these high road career pathways. So when we say high road career pathways, that really means developing partnerships with industry, with business, not only with the building trades, but with other private industry where there are these green jobs. And to our department, we really see almost every job could be classified as a green job. Any job where we're trying to put forward climate resiliency strategies or GHG reduction strategies in the business process to improve emissions, I think could be considered a green job. And we try to infuse that into the work that we're doing with the different industry partners that we have. And so for those, no one's really touched on it yet, but for those of you who don't know, the county has a high road training partnership program, really at the direction of Supervisor Kuehl and our very smart supervisors who have put this forward to say, not only are we helping people get jobs in the local community, but the people who are coming to the county for county jobs, because we employ over 100,000 individuals, there needs to be a process of equity in how we're doing that as well, to ensure that there's a pipeline of not only work-ready individuals, but individuals from the local community who have had barriers to employment into those jobs. So working in a high road partnership approach with Diane Factor, who I don't see here, and the Worker Education and Resource Center, working on the union side with Ann and the building trades to ensure that we're putting people through MC3 curriculum and getting people hired at the airports through Hire LAX. And ensuring that we're getting our homeless population into jobs. We have almost $500 million annually in Measure H money out there. And for those of you who don't know, that's our quarter-cent sales tax that we pass to ensure that we're helping our homeless population in the county. We need to ensure that we're elevating that population as well, because jobs and housing is the pathway out of poverty for so many people. And we just need to ensure that we're coordinated in that approach. So to the earlier panel's point about supply side and demand side, what we really try to do is look at what are the emerging demands in workforce development in these green industries, and how do we be proactive in developing subsidized training programs for those employers so that we can train these people and have them work ready on day one when the employer needs a pool as they scale up their business. Because really, economic development for this county is about supporting good business growth with businesses that are providing career pathway, family sustaining jobs with benefits, and then making sure that we're elevating our workforce. Right, so again, I think that many of you may know that the governor in his May revised budget actually has put forward $35 million annually over the next 5 years. And I know that Ron knows because you guys wrote a letter of support, I believe, to ensure that we are actually, as a state, not just as a county, putting our resources towards this to fund pre-apprenticeship construction partnerships, to ensure that we are supporting these high road training partnerships so that we know when we train our workers, we're training them for open and available jobs that exist in the green economy. And then finally, we know we are going to have displaced workers. There's going to be automation. There are going to be other processes. But guess what? With those new processes come new jobs. So how do we retrain those workers or upskill current workers, incumbent worker training, to ensure that we are placing those individuals and career pathways. So again, like I've already mentioned, in doing all this work, we're very much considering equity, our community benefits, environmental justice, and then elevating the sectors that provide family-sustaining wages, like the construction industry and others. And then very quickly, because we really don't have any time, our approach really is the direct outreach and specialized training, high road partnerships, like I mentioned. And we know that there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So if you are a business and you're looking for resources, we can offer subsidized wages, subsidized training, and happy to work with you to upskill your workforce. So again, we're really delighted to be part of this conversation. It's definitely a team effort. I see so many partners in the room, and thank you all for, quote unquote, leaning into this and making it happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Yeah. So last but not least, Estelle Reyes is Senior Vice President for the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for the opportunity to participate today. So I am the SVP of an area called Unlocking Innovation at LACI, Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator. We are a nonprofit organization focused on building an inclusive green economy. And what my team does at LACI is focused on making sure that underrepresented groups are engaged at every clean tech stage, from ideation to workforce to deployment. So last year, we were fortunate enough to receive a $2 million grant from the California Workforce Development Board, or CWDB. $1 million was allocated for zero emissions transportation, and the other $1 million was allocated towards workforce development. So that enabled us to do two things. The first is to conduct a green job study to highlight the current situation for the clean and smart grid, zero emissions transportation, and smart and sustainable cities jobs in the county. And as JR and Caroline mentioned, results of this study will help inform the current and future job projections in our communities, inform possible policy recommendations, and unlock ideas for new training models. And will really help us and our workforce development partners create programming that's actually aligned to market need. So to this end, we're actually putting out an RFQ for a green job study consultant. More details can be found on our website, and we're accepting applications through next Friday, July 26th, in case you or anyone you know might be interested. We'd love that. And then the second component that the grant allowed us to do is to build capacity in our workforce development programs. So the first point, we actually were able to expand our team over the past couple of months. We brought on 2 more team members because previously it was just me doing pilot workforce development programs. So it's been lovely to have a team. We have now a director of workforce development as well as a training coordinator. And the grant funding also enabled us to launch our initial full force workforce development program called our APC Fellowship, APC standing for Advanced Prototyping Center. So for those of you who have not yet been to our campus, LACI is housed in downtown LA's Arts District at La Cret's Innovation Campus. And we are so grateful. On our campus, we've got an Advanced Prototyping Center, or APC, where we have a digital prototyping lab, a machine shop, electronics lab, a welding shop, a wet lab, so that our startups can actually build their prototypes on campus. So we're actually also leveraging these state-of-the-art amenities for our workforce development programs. So last month, we actually launched our very first cohort for our APC Fellowship. It's focused on providing 50 participants from underrepresented groups with technical training and direct job connections with our portfolio companies and partner organizations. So really helping to close the loop in the talent pipeline. And so a quick snapshot of the demographics for cohort 1, 40% female, 84% people of color, 6% veteran, majority had attended some type of college but were not employed yet, and 100% low to moderate income. And then in terms of program design, we started off with the 50 participants doing a career exploration day. Then we selected 30 of that 50 to participate in a 2-week technical boot camp in our APC. All of them received industry-recognized credentials, either OSHA or forklift certification. And then of that 30, we selected 15 who were placed in internships directly with 5 of our portfolio companies: Perch Mobility, Hive Lighting, C-Trek, Sia Life, and Rain Systems. And to further support career advancement, all of the interns are also logged into an online platform where they can earn additional certifications, for example, Fusion 360, Arduino, or CAM. And they can avail themselves of a resource that we provided, a technical consultant who can help them with their projects in the APC for their respective companies. So we're super excited about this pilot and have lots of learnings. Quote from one of the students at the completion of the technical boot camp: this workforce development program was well thought out and provided an intensive curriculum covering the many moving parts of a fast-growing industry. I appreciated the effort that went into coordinating in-house and outsourced resources to provide an effective boot camp experience. This was by far one of the coolest learning experiences I've had in a while. Thanks. So as we launch Cohort 2 this fall, we're really interested in exploring the intersection of workforce development and zero emissions transportation. So exploring potential training in EV infrastructure, particularly in installation and maintenance. And I'm so excited and inspired to hear everybody here and on the panel. I'm so excited to collaborate with all of you to meet the county's sustainability goals.
Terrific. Awesome job, panelists. You've kept us on time. So the moderator is going to take the prerogative of asking the first question here. So the county sustainability plan covers many of the traditional sustainability plan buckets: renewable energy, water, open green space, recycling and waste flows, things like that. When we look across the workforce needs embodied in the plan and other plans within our region, and we think about the supply of workforce trainees and the demand for those trainees, how well are our workforce programs doing at shifting to meet the needs of the industries as they green themselves? Where are the wins and where are the challenges that we still face?
It's clear, we've heard from several individuals today, that there's still a gap in skilled, work-ready individuals for jobs in the green economy, and I think we're rapidly, as a county workforce system, working to address that. I would say, from a WIN perspective, we've partnered with several aerospace and manufacturing companies to ensure that we're developing a specialized training curriculum for those companies specific to what their needs are. I think that we would, of course, like to continue this partnership and also more strongly partner with the trades to ensure that we have pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship opportunities for the pipeline of work-ready individuals to then go into a high-road career pathway. I think that we certainly use a lot of economic modeling software to determine where we should direct our resources, and doing a deeper dive on our return on our investment for some of our training dollars that we're spending would be very useful. But I think wins are these direct partnerships where we know that we're training people for jobs that exist. I think that we have to dispel or disavow people of the concept that you need a bachelor's degree to be competitive for a lot of these jobs. I think that recognized credential programs are very valuable. We want to increase the amount of programs that we're doing in that sphere. And I'm so delighted to hear about what Lacey's doing, and I'd love to talk further after. But yes, I do think that we need more registered apprenticeships and more credential programs, and showing our employers that these are skilled workers that they can accept just as skilled as someone who has a bachelor's degree.
As the new projects come up, like the football stadium and different arenas and county and city buildings, they have the latest green technology built into them. The architects and the engineers are doing that. So the trades over the years have always had to keep up with the technology and be the best trained, and we put the money in for the training so that we can build them. And so the trades do a pretty good job of keeping up with the the green technology. Like I said, the windmills in Palm Springs, they were cutting edge when they were built, but that was our men and women that did it. Maybe not too many women back then, but we have a big push to put women into the trades now. We know they're needed. You know, over my 40 years, I've had women work on my jobs that I ran, and I had never had one that couldn't do just as good as the men, if not better. So we need the men and women to build the workforce of tomorrow. And look, there's nobody, you can look around this room, and you can deny it if you want to, but I know the county has almost 50% of its workforce ready for retirement now. The city's in the same shape. So that makes pretty much, that's how it is. So we have to do it.
And then just one additional point, I think you're exactly right. Like there's going to be a huge opportunity for industries to shift. So it's not just necessarily about creating green jobs, it's making more jobs green. So tons of opportunity all around.
And I would just say, I think I've been hearing this for the last 5 years that, you know, we have a retiring workforce. I think our challenge has been trying to get the city, the county, these big public agencies talking with us about exactly what they want and creating curriculum, training programs that, because we're nimble, we're adaptable, we can roll this stuff out quickly, but we just get caught up in the bureaucracy, I think, of getting our boots on the ground. We have also struggled with the curriculum, getting curriculum through the community college system. So it's just the time it takes to get from idea to implementation. We're ready, we just can't always do it.
Are there specific improvements in policy that you guys would like to see?
So I can tell you one thing we've just recently completed with the county, and I'd like to give praise to the county supervisors because they pushed for this. We just came to a tentative agreement between the building trades and the county on a community benefits agreement that's going to cover 4 or 5 major projects in the county. It's over $6 billion worth of work. It is it's nothing we haven't done before, but it's on a bigger scale. It has local hire, it has preference for veterans, it has a disadvantaged workforce. And it puts teeth into the local hire so that we actually do put people from the local community to work. We train them, we give them, they end up with a good career that's going to last them a lifetime. And so that's coming in the next few weeks. The Board of Supervisors will be voting on it. But we spent a long time negotiating it. Took a long time to get there, but it's going to be a great program.
And what's that going to be called?
It's a community benefits agreement.
We've tried to work through the city's targeted local hire program, and it's been difficult because it's random at this point. So our core members are entered into a pool with thousands and thousands of other people. We had some great success with the county and a PLACE program that essentially took core members from all of the cores within the county and gave them specialized training. We found ways at the LA Conservation Corps to pay them, which is a huge hurdle for us. So this group, who needs it more than anyone, can't take 2 weeks off and go to training. They need to get paid as they're trained. And 4 of our 5 who went through the training passed the test. Well, I think 4 of the 5 passed the test and have jobs now, good county jobs. So more opportunities like that, policy making that a little bit easier would be great too.
I would agree with your comments, and I think the board is supportive of the PLACE program. I mean, I can't speak for them, but I know there are people from CEO here. I think there's the expectation to expand that. She touched on a really important point. In the federal legislation, we cannot pay for wages or for stipends for individuals while they're completing training. And we know that a lot of our individuals who are coming through our programs have multiple barriers, and they can't go 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks without a stipend. So we've tried to come up with several different ways to cobble together funding to augment what WIOA provides for in order to give individual stipends so that we know that they can go from their minimum wage, potentially retail job that isn't leading to a career pathway into a training program for a career pathway, a job where they know that they're going to be getting a job at the end. So I think that incentivizing stipends is really important.
Estelle, are there any policies you'd like to see?
Yes, so in addition to like the procurement policy, I would also say like the disclosure policy. So once bids are won, to actually be able to be held accountable to the goals that were stipulated in terms of local hire, minority, whatever the criteria was, so that it's not a trade secret, but it's actually out in the public for everyone to be able to see.
Hi, I'm Tara Davis from Arab, and I have a question for Ron or Caroline. I'd like to hear your on-the-ground perspective on what are some strategies, challenges, and opportunities that you guys have encountered in targeted transitioning of fossil fuel jobs.
As an employer, obviously, the county is moving forward in that direction. But then, as someone who's training individuals, I think we just have to adapt our curriculum to ensure that we're training people for the jobs that are available and that we want to see people employed in. I wouldn't say that we've encountered specific challenges on the ground. I think really our general challenge is making sure that we're outreaching to the right people, to the right community-based organizations, that we're working with the right partners, so that we're truly approaching this from an equity lens. And there are all these special programs throughout the county to ensure that we're getting targeted workers with barriers to employment into these really great job opportunities, but making sure that it's not, a friend of a friend that we're putting into those opportunities, but that there's some sort of pipeline approach, there's a systematic approach, and that we're getting, the right people into the right job opportunities, if you will. So our outreach is really important in doing that, and I think that that's always a challenge to educate people about the public workforce system, what it is, what it provides, why someone would want to come through the system and partner with us. And so just making sure that we are truly training work-ready individuals, and then also just strengthening our partnerships with the local community, I think are some of the challenges and next steps.
Ron, I think, to focus in on one area that I think you're very familiar with, I think the question, an illustration or example of the question would be, as we transition from transportation fuels that are fossil fuel-based, like the refinery jobs, to electricity-based transportation fuels, which are going to be solar or wind-based, does that create a challenge, or is that happening at a pace that's smooth in terms of the workforce?
So I think there's a lot of optimism out there about it happening a lot faster than it can actually happen. And that may be the elephant in the room, but a lot of people talk about battery storage. That requires lithium. So in a day and age when they have big lithium mines down in South America, but we also have the opportunity to mine lithium out in our deserts here in California and Nevada. So how do we approach that? Do we get the lithium from South America, where they may not have the same environmental standards as we have towards the environment and labor? Or do we actually do the mining here in California and do it safely and take care of labor at the same time so that we can get our battery storage? And the thing with the fossil fuel, just like I mentioned, we're putting $20 billion worth of work right now into LAX. That's telling me that there's going to be airplanes flying in and out of there for years to come. We need that jet fuel. That requires a refinery to produce it. And there's no pipelines coming into California to bring that fuel. So we have to make it here, or we buy it from another country and bring it in on a ship that may not have the same environmental standards at their refineries. Or do we take control of it and have the refineries, and California does a good job on the refineries of making them meet environmental goals compared to other parts of the country. So that's a couple things that, like I said, the county has a good sustainable plan. We think the time frames are right. There's other people out there that want to move the goalposts up and try to get there a little quicker. We just don't know whether it's doable.
My name is Kelvin Garvan. I'm actually a student at Santa Monica College. And my question is about the intersection of opportunity and actual curriculum, because there are a lot of people who do not know about any of this. And in terms of these apprenticeship programs, Jennifer Kropke explained that IBEW 11 has a 5-year program that pays people that 5-year period, so they don't have to worry about trying to support themselves. In terms of incarcerated people, Are there any in-prison, in the penal system programs so that if someone is not a violent offender, may have 2 years for doing God knows what, maybe not paying child support? Are there programs in the actual penal institutions, any place in America, where you can actually learn something and you could possibly go into work after your 2 years is up?
So we have our pre-apprenticeship program in some of the fire camps right now. Those are for low-level offenders. And we also partner with a group called ARC, the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, started by a guy named Scott Budnick. A lot of you guys may not know him, but he was the executive producer of the Hangover movies. His passion, if you wanted to find him, he'd be down at Men's Central Jail on a Saturday teaching English in the high school at Men's Central Jail. So we've partnered with him. We take men, and there's some women that come out of there. We put them in cohorts of about 35. It's a partnership with the County Federation of Labor, Trade Tech College, and the building trades, and some other community groups that provide wraparound services that are needed for this particular group of men. But we put them through our MC3 program. We have an 80% placement rate into our apprenticeship program from that group. It's been successful.
And we're working on something right now with probation to get in there and train them up before they leave so that the second they step out of the camp, they come into the Corps. It's been a long process, but we're getting closer.
And then I would just add really quickly, we do have a jail-based job center at the Pitchess Detention Center. And then, sorry to keep referencing Supervisor Kuehl, but she just passed a motion to establish a jail-based job center at the women's jail. So that'll be our second one for direct jail in-reach. We also partner with ARC. And I think when we were talking about where the gap is, a lot of the people that are coming through our system probably have some sort of justice involvement, and it's really reducing those barriers and reducing the stigma that employers have to hiring from that population. So we're actively working on that as well. There is empirical evidence out there that reentry workers actually work harder, promote faster, and stay longer in their jobs because they've been given that opportunity and they want to prove themselves. So we are extremely committed to not only doing the jail in-reach, but then the wraparound services after release. And then we also have a program with the probation department as well to place active felony probationers. So very top of mind for us.
Hi, I'm Jolie. I'm with the airport with a division called Business Jobs and Social Responsibility. So we have, like apprenticeship programs, pipelines, all of that. But people always come to us and say, well, that's great, but what are like the hard numbers, right? Like who is being employed, how many? So kind of just a general question for the panel, like do you all have specific means of tracking those numbers of employment at the finish line of those, like pipelines, programs, et cetera? Or in the absence of that hard data, how do you shape success stories to, again, shift that narrative away from sustainability meaning job loss when it's the opposite, or should be the opposite?
I'm sure LAWA has a website. They have the program called Hire LAX. That's a partnership with the airport, Parsons Corporation, the building trades, the city, numerous people, but they do track all of that local hire stuff. Wouldn't be right for the building trades to do it. It'd be like the Fox Garden, the hen house. But I'm sure they post it on the website. Metro, we have about $120 billion worth of transportation projects at Metro. If you go on the Metro website, you can find all the data there concerning local hire and the transitional worker program also.
And I can talk with you after, but we have robust data on all of this, including for Hire LAX, including for local and targeted worker at the county, including for everyone who's coming through our AJCC system, America's Job Centers of California. So happy to provide that. Certainly tracking not only placement, but retention and upwaging and upskilling is really important to us.
The question is about people who are perhaps inclined towards entrepreneurship in the area. So not necessarily, well, some of us somehow were not made to work in first of all, financial literacy as part of any of the work that you do, and then just programs into entrepreneurs. I know that a lot of people are coming out of Lacey with a lot of great technology and ideas, and just how is that supported, and sort of what are some of the thresholds also for people who, come into that world and be able to get the right loans to operate. I know Metro's small business, MBE, WB, everything you want to do is $8 million. So it would be interesting to see where you're at with that.
Yeah, sure. So absolutely. So for Lacey, that's one of the things we're actually considering is, as we're doing workforce development, is there a way that we can do also an entrepreneurial track? Because for our workforce development program, for example, the students are not just learning how to, the technical skills, they're learning the product development roadmap. So if they decide to jump off and start their own business, they have the tools to do so. So trying to figure out how we don't just pigeonhole them into a box around workforce development, but really to empower them to be leaders and bosses in their own right.
And then I would just add a plug for the county. We actually do have an Office of Small Business. Happy to connect you with them. Like I mentioned, there's a 15% bid price preference for local small business enterprises, social enterprises, and disabled veteran business enterprises. We try to help individuals win not only county contracts, but federal contracts as well. In terms of financial literacy, we do have a Center for Financial Empowerment, and ensuring that that's included as a wraparound service as we move towards an integrated approach to economic development is something that we're actively working on, making sure that they're brought in to the conversation, making sure that our Community Development Authority, or County Development Authority, they just changed their name, LA County Development Authority, LACDA, they have a variety of loan programs. It's their suite of loans called Smart Funding, making sure that if a business comes to us, we can refer them to CDA for the right types of loans. And then we're opening an entrepreneur center in East LA to incubate businesses at Centro Maravilla, if anyone's familiar with it. So I'm happy to talk offline with anyone, but certainly top of mind is also entrepreneurship.
Hi, I'm Sherry Davis. I'm co-director of the Public Policy Institute at Santa Monica College. I look forward to meeting a student. And I'm sure I have colleagues at the college who know more about the workforce and internship and job training programs, because we're an institution that has lots of different moving parts. But I'm just so curious, these programs all are so amazing. How would a student or someone who is interested in getting into one of the training programs find out about it and get involved in it?
Why don't we just go down the panel? You want to start, Ron?
Well, I know Higher LAX has been very successful. We train for the projects that are in the jobs that are there. So we have to have a pathway to work. The community colleges are great at training, but they have to have a partnership with the building trades in order to have a project to place people on. It does no good to train people and stack them up like cordwood. You have to have a place to put them to work. So we have an agreement at Santa Monica Malibu School District. We're building schools there under an agreement with local hire, preference for veterans. It's happening. We'd like to do it at your college. We have to have the political will, though.
And the LA Conservation Corps is a perfect placement for a college student, a community college student. We've actually put many of Santa Monica, not many, but at our C Lab, we had a lot of Santa Monica college students join us. So lacorps.org.
Sherry, I'd be happy to talk with you. I think that was some of what I was alluding to earlier in my remarks about equity and how we ensure that the right people are getting into these programs. We're working on a systematic approach to outreach and enrollment, but I don't know that we're 100% there yet. So how do we recruit? I mean, I think it's general, just outreach through our community-based organizations, online, et cetera, and word of mouth. I wish I could say that we had a very coordinated approach, but we're working on that, and I'm happy to talk offline if we can get any Santa Monica College students into our programs.
So for us, for our APC Fellowship Program, we've been delighted to have many SMC students, but since we were quite small, it was very grassroots. So our Director of Workforce Development actually made calls to professors. He went to career fairs at all the community colleges. So he actually met a lot of the participants face to face, and that's how they got into the program. But would love to figure out like best practices more systematically as we scale.
All right. I think we're going to stop it there. I want to just recognize that our panel embodies a wide range of experience from apprenticeship and union training, nonprofit job training, the county's leadership in terms of workforce development, and then our cutting edge Lacey, which focuses on entrepreneurship and workforce development more broadly. And thank you all for making time in your busy schedule to share with us your thoughts and expertise, your reflections on the county sustainability plan. I want to thank each of you for taking time out of your day to join us today, to be part of this conversation about how we move Los Angeles County forward, how we strengthen its commitment to sustainability, and make sure that that investment in sustainability also produces jobs for our residents. And I think at this moment, I'm going to invite Conyers to come up and give us the details on lunch. But before I do, please join me in thanking our panel.
If we could just have another quick round of applause for this panel and all of our speakers today. Thank you so much for finding the time to educate us and inspire us. Thank you, everybody, for staying. I know finding this much time in the middle of the week is difficult. Good on you, and thank you. I just wanted to say one quick and final thank you, and that's to my colleagues at the Schwarzenegger Institute, in particular, Allison Kay and Francisca Martinez, who really pulled this entire conference together today. I mean, they've been amazing and working behind the scenes, and we wouldn't be here today, and we certainly wouldn't be having lunch if it weren't for their hard work. So, round of applause for them. And finally, lunch is available. We hope everybody will stick around, network, ask the panelists and the other speakers all those questions you didn't get to ask in this setting. And if you need anything from the Schwarzenegger Institute, we're here, we're available, and we're also online, so reach out at your convenience. And one last and final thank you to the UCLA Luskin Center for Innovation. We couldn't have had a better partner to work with on this, and I hope this is just the beginning of many more collaborations with JR and his crack team as well, that also deserve a round of applause. Let's eat. Thank you.